Well, everyone, last week was more of a Foxborough frustration, but it's the complete opposite this week as the Patriots got a close but good, feel-good win, 33 to 27. I'm going to come out of the gates with a hot take. That was Drake May's best game as a Patriot.
100% agreed, especially given the context of bouncing back after week one and the fact that it's in Miami against in a location Patriots have struggled in for a long.
I think we have Matt a little frozen here. We had some technical difficulties joining the stream, but now he has done that. So just give me a second. Don't you just love a good internet delay? But anyway, back to what we were saying. Weather, city, environment, but Drake May's best game as a Patriot to date because there's more to come.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about what we saw this Sunday. Uh, I think you got to start at the top. His operation of the offense,
Yep.
uh, his vision, seeing what was out there on the field, and then the ability to read that quickly and follow that up with accurate throws. We didn't see that in week one. I think it was new to this Josh McDaniels offense and
Yes.
probably a little overwhelmed by the options it gives you. And I think that's why we saw some of the errant throws, and hopefully those are out of the system for good now.
Yeah. No. I still feel like week one, for as much as, because I've said this all year, because obviously last time you and I spoke was in May, where it's kind of like that awkward time of the off season, like, just
Yeah.
like not too much going on. But the big thing I look at for week one to week two is just, a team learning, a team that's going to go through growing pains. But the other thing I was saying to myself today was that was also a good win because the game the Patriots won Sunday, that's a game that I don't think that team would have won last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, hell, even 5 years ago. That was just a win where it wasn't pretty, but you got it done. I think the last time we saw that was probably with Cam Newton. Like I say 2021, but there was a lot of games. 2021 is a bit of a goofy year just because there was a lot of just weird misadventures and bad scheduling. To where that's a win that gives you confidence. Yeah, did the defense not play good? No, but we all know the defense is going to be a bit of a weak spot. But usually when they got into shootouts like that in recent memories, they either get blown out or they're just on the bad receiving end of it. But we learned Sunday, hey, Kayshon Boutte is a great player and can make plays. They got the running game involved. Garrett Bradbury is the signing people were questioning all offseason, but he's been great for the team so far. And the big one for me, you have solid tight end play, and you can never go wrong with that. So there's just so much to look forward to as this team goes forward. But at the same time, too, there's going to be a few losses that just not eat at people, but that just where it's like, oh, Rome is falling. But at the same time, too, this is going to be a year with growing pains. I think people just need to not accept that, but just understand hey, this is what's going to be the 2025 New England Patriots. They're not expected to be at Santa Clara come February. They're expected just to be a relevant team throughout the year. And you know what? Hey, if they sneak into 5, 6, or 7, by all means.
When I think, one of the reasons this team wins this game in a way that some recent Patriots teams definitely would not.
Yep.
Playmakers. You're down by needing a touchdown in the second half of this game. It's third down. You need to make a passing play. Drake Maye steps up, has amazing pocket presence, and without a second of hesitation, unleashes a dime down the field to Ramondre Stevenson, flips the field, sets up the score, and then he's able to take it into the end zone with his legs. You haven't had a quarterback making plays like that in New England since 2019.
Yep.
And then defensively, you need to finish out the game. Milton Williams, this is why he gets all that money this offseason. Playmakers. And it's the NFL. There's going to be a lot of close games. You need guys who can step up in big moments to deliver for you. And offense and defense, a lot to work on. Not a perfect performance by any stretch, but you do enough to get the win. And how much this win matters, how much it tells us about this team, I think, will be borne out in the way they play the rest of the season. Is this a fluky road win early in the season from a team that can't put things together, or is it a young team building together into something more? Especially with an easy schedule ahead of them right now, they have the opportunity to write that second story instead of that first one.
So I may have screamed, this is why we effing paid you about 5 or 6 times when he got that sack on Tua. at the end of the game. I'm not going to lie. I may have screamed that a bunch. It was just, that was the kind of like NFL Patriot games that like they haven't been involved in. Like the last one that was close like that, where like obviously there's some last year, but we never knew they were in it. But that was like a 2022 vibes, like the Thanksgiving night against Minnesota game where they needed to make a play. And you know what?
Yeah.
You bring up 2019, and the ghosts of 2019 actually helped the Patriots because you know what? They got the player's foot in bounds. Because I still think if that Devin A-Chain touchdown stands, they probably, I don't know if they win the game. I think that was
it gets hairy. Well, and it's
yeah.
that Miami defense didn't play well all day. So if we're talking 2-minute drill with Drake May, I don't hate my chances. But you'd always rather have the lead than not.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. You know what? You have the chances. You get the chances, but at the same time, too, you don't have to worry about that. This team, too, is just one where there's going to be some excitement throughout the year, I feel like, but at the same time, too, there's just going to be there's going to be a couple lumps and bumps along the way, but I don't know what your goal is. Like, let's just go to there. Like, when I look at the goal, like, I even look at, what was said today about Andy, just while Vrabel views the kicker. Obviously, great friend of the show, Sophie Weller, asked the question. Taylor Kyle's another great reporter, gets shouted out for everything. But the fact that Vrabel stands by his guys shows that, like, hey, we're not backing down. Obviously, Vrabel and kickers isn't the best relationship in the world, as we learned in Tennessee. But I feel like the defense needs a game where they can win it. And I don't know if Gonzalez is going to play. Also, you probably know better than me. What, like, with the whole Keon White situation of like how sick he is, it's weird and interesting, but I feel like this week could really be a turning point because if they either hang in close with the Steelers or if they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers and go to 2-1, all of a sudden the New England Patriots are knocking at the door of like relevancy. I'm not saying knocking at the door of being good, but it's like if they could be relevant, I think that's all we can ask for.
Well, and the way the schedule sets up this year, the Patriots play a lot of teams that are probably going to win between 5 and 8 games this year. Yeah. So the difference between the Patriots being in that group and the Patriots being a team with a winning record probably comes down to how do you do in that group of teams. Pittsburgh is another team that's probably around that tier. You got them at home. Beating them is another step towards the top. You talk about Vrabel's attitude, though. I think Vrabel clearly understands that this is a growing group. This is a young group, and it's, winning now matters. Winning now is important. Setting guys up for future success is almost equally as important. Yep. And I think you saw that with the game balls on Sunday. Giving out game balls to guys who made mistakes in that game. Borregales, Marty Mapu, a guy who, almost gives up, is part of giving up that long touchdown to A-Chan that comes back, but they also made plays. And it's that putting that emphasis on, all right, we're going to reward you for the playmaking. And then, go from there, knowing that we still got to fix the other stuff, but
it's also, too, I feel like when there's the mistakes to be corrected, that will be dealt with behind the scenes instead of in front of the reporters, in front of the cameras, etc.
Yeah, 100%. When I wonder if, as the expectations around the team change, if they start winning, we might see a little bit more public criticism, depending, as the expectations internally get higher. And the deeper we get into the season, you treat a rookie kicker differently for missing in week 2 than you do for missing, continually by week 8. These are different circumstances. So how Vrabel handles that if we get there, I think will be telling. But he's trying to set these guys up emotionally that we never get to that spot.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want to give them the good emotion. You're not going to lay into them now. Like, obviously, let the fans, let the pundits lay in. The other thing I saw today, too, and I don't know if you've seen this, but the whole talk about trading Gonzalez, which if he plays Sunday, great. But if not, like, be patient, exercise this, because I feel like as we transition into Sunday's game, where they're going to be in there. I still have the towel here. This beautiful logo gets painted at center field. They have a chance to really lay their mark just because, for one, they don't get like the lower tiered announcers. They actually get the wonderful short and tall duo of Ian Eagle and JJ Watt, which feels weird to say, but that's what's happening. And you're going up against a Pittsburgh team who week 1, it was like great game against the Jets, shootout. And then last week, I don't know what happened. Sam Darnold just went in there, and it was one of those games where I look at the score and I'm like, oh, Pittsburgh's winning. Oh, they're doing this. And then I look and I'm like, 30, I think it was like 34-17 or something like that. And I'm like, wait, what? What did Seattle do? So it's like, I'm still gathering information on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like there's still a lot of teams you can do that for, but New England's really in a good position right now to where as long as they can, there's that stretch. I still have been saying this for months. There's still that stretch in October that if they go anything worse than 2-1, that there's a real problem here. But, which I know I believe Pat's going to the game in New Orleans, but I still look at this team as, like you said, it's a work in progress. But if by next year, if they're in the draft, they miss the playoffs, but they're picking in, if their pick is a double digits pick, I don't think anyone's going to be mad at that, because next year it's really like, I know you like to look at the draft. So if you're looking ahead to the draft, it's realistically adding people on the defense. Like the fact, hey, you got playmakers offensively. You've got an offensive line that's not terrible. Now it's about drafting for not fun, but it's about drafting. Hey, you can go out and get Will Weeks from LSU, for example. There's a lot of potential with this team for the next, I think, 3 to 5 years, to where they're also in a good position too, because Buffalo is there. And I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing, but there's not that like pressure of like, hey, like what last year, remember everyone's like, oh, Miami's going to win the East or New York's going to win the East. And now both teams suck. So I think New England's really a controller of their own destiny in that sense too, where it's like, hey, you can just be the quiet kid in the corner that just goes boom one day and just surprises us out of nowhere of, holy crap, they're a good football team.
Well, the Patriots control their own destiny in that they have a lot of talent in-house where, you're hoping to develop. And I think, setting expectations for this team based on like draft position, I don't love doing that at this point, because as fans, our expectations are going to adjust throughout the season as we see how the guys play. Because if guys are busts on the offensive line and things look terrible, all right, well, let's just get a couple wins. The offensive line's playing well. All right, well, the line's playing well and Drake's playing well. We got to start winning some football games out of this, which I think they absolutely can do. I think we start on the offensive side. I will say, first of all, I was not the biggest fan of the Will Campbell pick last year. I've made that very well known. He's proven me wrong so far. Granted, I think he was up and down against the Raiders. Penalties are an issue for him. He played very well against Miami. A Miami front that has been good, but has not played well so far this year. So how good they are, how good that performance from Will Campbell looks in a month, I think we're going to have to find out. But, he's played very well. I'd like to see him keep that up. Jared Wilson is very inconsistent, but is quickly becoming one of my favorite, like emotionally, one of my favorite players on the team. I caught this on the All 22, and Mike Vrabel was talking about it too in his breakdown. If you watch the throw to Ramondre Stevenson down the sideline and follow that through, the first guy down the field to celebrate is Jared Wilson. Your left guard outruns everyone else down the field by a wide margin to celebrate. And then on the 2-point conversion a couple plays later, he and everyone else on that line are fired up after pushing Miami back and getting into the end zone. And like, all right, like everyone, we've talked about the culture stuff with Will Campbell. I didn't realize Jared Wilson was also bringing this culture stuff to the table here with that energy, which is awesome. Trevion Henderson, still a bit of a work in progress here. I will say, I was someone that liked Trevion Henderson, but wanted them to go a different direction with that pick. My reasoning for that being, I'm going to switch over to the defense for just a sec here. I think there's 4 clear weak spots on this defense right now.
Linebacker.
Yeah, but 2 of them are linebacker. Both linebacker spots have been rough. I think Alex Austin has been rough. I still think he could play well in this league. I think he's been put in some tough positions here early, and like he's a 3rd or 4th corner. And he's playing like a starter right now, being asked to do a lot and cover good players. But when you swap him out for Christian Gonzalez, that's going to be a massive step up schematically in what you can do and in the execution of it.
Yes.
And then the other thing, it's the second pass rusher spot on the edge. Caleb Von Chasen has been like just a guy out there, and I think he's also clearly been better than Keon White in that role. Braden Swinson, who they drafted, didn't make the roster. Elijah Ponder, Anthony Jennings, I mean, they look like they're just a guy out there. Like they're not going to generate anything for you. And Harold Landry's playing well. You've got an elite defensive tackle pairing. You know, that other pass rusher spot looking into the future, and there'll be opportunities here for the rest of the season. Like that's where you got to develop, because if you can, I mean, that gives you the ability to have an elite 4-down rush with those guys, especially Harold Landry and his athleticism. He looks so quick right now. And if you can put him in a spot where he's going to spy the quarterback or contain or get cleanup sacks, he's so good at that. If you can just get one other pass rusher in the mix. So would love to see, if Braden Swinson earns an opportunity, I would love to see that. Would love to see Keon White, get back in the fold here if he can play well. And Caleb Von Chasen has shown flashes, but they need something more consistent there.
Yeah. So the thing, I like Chason as like an emotional leader. I like the whole, making him a captain for the week 1 game against the Raiders. The one player I'm still been disappointed in is there's actually 2 for me. One's Robert Spillane, just because I expect him to come in right away and be not this game home wrecker player that's gonna constantly perform, but I didn't expect what we've seen out of him so far. Christian Ellis is a bit of a different story because I don't think anyone expected Christian Ellis to be not much of anything, but what Christian Ellis is. There's not the expectations were super high. And then the other one for me too is Morgan Moses. Just I know he's been dealing with injuries, but some of the penalties, I want to be you're a vet. Veteran players don't make those kind of moves that you've been doing. It's not Shane Brewer or Aaron Brewer on the Giants bad, but you know what I mean?
When a guy like Will Campbell, I will criticize for the false starts, but also understand that he's a rookie early in his career. Mental mistakes are going to happen. Yep. Morgan Moses, 3 false starts. Caleb Von Chasen lining up offsides twice. Both veterans, inexcusable. You just can't have that. This has to be as bad as it gets for that type of penalty all season. 12 penalties against Miami. Yeah. You can't do that and expect to win. Not with the talent they have on this roster. They're just not good enough to win games if they're going to commit this many penalties. So, and I think Moses has been about what I expected. A clear upgrade on what they had, and still a C+, B- level player who gets you through the year and you address after. You got to do it without these false starts.
It's also not Demontre Jacobs, and I feel like we can all be thankful for that. That's where I look at this offense. Better. Yeah. It's like going from you're a New York boy, so you can say this. It's like your crummy $1.50 slice place to getting maybe I don't know, Domino's or Papa John's. It's not good, but it does the job. It gets the job done. It's not.
I will say some of those $1.50 slices I've had are delicious.
you know what I mean though. It's like going from it's like basically trying something that's a step above to where it's this still kind of sucks, but it's something about it makes it better, makes it pop. That's what I just
you're going from getting a burger at the 7-Eleven or something like a gas station burger or hot dog, and now we're going to Chili's for it. It's not high, cuisine, but it'll do the job.
Yeah, the chips and salsa are a nice little addition to the table.
They are.
The other thing I look at with this team too is just, and I this is a personal thing. Obviously, there is a lot going. I don't know. Obviously, Terrell Williams has his health problems going on.
Yeah.
But the thing I will say is, I prefer a defensive coordinator that Zach that's on the sidelines. There's just something about being in the booth that just doesn't sit right with me. No matter what it is, I know it's the whole seep things from above, but I know it's cool when Tom Brady does it, and Tom's sitting in the booth and then he's just going to go down in his chair as ESPN notices. And he's I'm not supposed to be here. That was for Monday night. He kind of found the seat lever, the name that makes the chair go up and down. But with the rest of this team, defensively, I think if this team is bad defensively but good offensively, I think most not normal fans, but I think your average Patriots fan, not the sick people like you and me who this team consumes our mental health for 18 weeks of the year, and close to 52. Let's be honest. But for the average fan that watches and they say, hey, this team's winning football games. They're beating some pretty decent competition. They're doing pretty good to where it's now this whole dynamic of next year. if they're the team come the end of the season that the I know I'm going off to a million places, but you know, if they're the team that the pundits are talking about towards the end of the season, I was like, you know, hey, New England next year, like you get like the Mina Kimeses of the world, like the Peter Schraggers, like those kind of people speaking about it and talking about it. They're in a really good spot going forward.
Yeah. Well, I think we talk about the defense. On one hand, it's been rough. They are 28th in yards allowed per drive right now. So like some of the volume stats, they're only 19th in points allowed. But it feels worse than that because like Miami didn't have a lot of possessions. Miami scored like 2.5 points per possession, which is not good. That's like a top 10 offense in the NFL. The flip side of this, I think what we have to figure out, Geno Smith can be a good quarterback. He played very well week 1. And then against Miami, like Tua in this offense obviously did not look good week 1. But like this is what Mike McDaniel does. Those skill guys were good. I did feel like a lot of the issues they had on Sunday defensively were just like, we have to play zone because with Alex Austin and not Christian Gonzalez, we can't play man against them. And then we've got a first-time play caller calling the plays against Mike McDaniel, who's very good at this. And it was just like you get put in tough spots. So I think the defense absolutely can improve in season. I think Christian Gonzalez is going to help a lot. I think more experience with your play caller as the season goes along will help. I do think the strangest thing about this team right now is that they lead the NFL in sacks, I believe. And yet it's like everything feels boom or bust. Like to lead the NFL in sacks and be 28th in yards allowed per drive means it's just like you're either getting pressure, getting the quarterback down, or they're hitting an explosive play against you, and you got to find a way to just limit it a little bit more, and you're going to be in a great spot.
So the next big question is then for this coming Sunday afternoon, Pittsburgh Steelers are coming to town. I've always had this game as a schedule loss going into the year. I still don't know what to feel because I know I saw a fair bit of their defenders on the injury report. Obviously, some of them are there for rest. But I think there's a world to where if the Patriots can kind of make Aaron Rodgers' day a little miserable in the pocket, force him into making some uncomfortable decisions. Because to quote my good friend McGarvin on here, he's quoted saying that team is DK Metcalf and a bunch of guys. Offensively, it's DK Metcalf and then a bunch of random dudes. So I think if you can limit DK Metcalf and make Aaron Rodgers, either uncomfortable in the pocket and you can give the offense good positioning and, TJ Watt doesn't completely feed the offensive line their lunch, I think the Patriots do have a chance to win this game. I just feel like Pittsburgh still is the better team at the end of the day, even though they're going to be that like hovering around like 8, 9, 10 win team this year.
I do think these teams are pretty close. I will say, when the schedule drops, I look at this early season and I'm like, okay, both of these defenses are going to be good. They've got defensive coaches. There's talent there. Offenses are a question mark with Patriots offensive line and with whatever Aaron Rodgers is going to be. We come into this one. Pittsburgh is 8th in points scored and 29th in points allowed so far this season. It's all offense for them. And the Patriots, have been much better on offense so far, I think, than defense. At least you get one good game out of the offense, no good games out of the defense so far. So it's definitely beating like what my expectations were. Like it's not at all like that. I think this is a very winnable game. You look at this Pittsburgh team. It's DK Metcalf and it's Jalen Warren after the catch. Are there two? That's how they're picking up yards right now. Because I did say they're 8th in points scored. They're also 27th in yards. They're 29th in yards per drive. They have gotten lucky with short fields so far. They have multiple short field touchdowns. Their defense has forced a couple turnovers. And, that's, I think, what you have to do to stop them from scoring. Don't turn the ball over. Make them go the length of the field. If you play zone, Aaron Rodgers is going to dice you up a little bit because he's smart, but keep everything in front of you. The linebackers have to play a lot better on Sunday. You have to make tackles. You have to, get guys down shorter. It has to be better. I think in the game on Sunday, 5 of the top 6 Patriots for tackles in the game were guys in the secondary. You can't have that. That means they're getting down the field on you.
You do that against Pittsburgh, they'll kill you.
And it'll be, they're not going to – Aaron Rodgers is not great right now. They're not going to totally kill you. They're not going to blow you out just with the offense. But you can't give them any extra. You can force a couple turnovers too. that would be awesome. But you just want to keep everything in front of you and limit it. Stephens, on the other hand, TJ Watt is not playing well. Haywood Highsmith, I think, is their best pass rusher right now. I don't think he's going to play. I think there's at least doubt if he's going to play. Sorry, is it Alex or is it Haywood Highsmith?
Alex Highsmith.
Who am I thinking of then? Am I getting you guys confused? I don't know. Anyway, their pass rush has been not great so far this year, and if the Patriots offensive line can show up once again and win not just through the air but on the ground like you did against Miami, you can control this game, I think, and take it from them.
Yeah, that's the excuse me. That's the big thing with this game is just because I was going to say this game reminds me of what the Colts game could have been last year, where it just comes down to those like little mistakes by the defense cost them. To where this game, I think you keep Drake's pocket clean, you don't force him into uncomfortable situations. Because even last week too, the sacks he took, just going back to that game, nothing was really on the offensive line. Like one was Travion Henderson in pass protection, one was Hunter Henry in pass protection. You know what? That's just like, hey, a great defensive edge is going to beat a tight end, is going to beat a running game.
I think two of them. I think two were on Henderson actually.
Yeah. There was Bradley Chubb got one of them. I know that. I'm trying to remember who got. I think it was. Don't remember if Chop Robinson got the other one, but I digress. Yeah. I do think this is a winnable game. I just can see a world where they lose just because, like I say, at the end of the day, Pittsburgh has the better coach, has the better quarterback. But if the New England defense can show up, because they did last year. That's the one thing people got to remember too last year. In New England, the New England defense got to Aaron Rodgers. And even on a day when Drake May got hurt and Jacoby Brissett had to play hero, the Patriots found a way. This week's narrative for me is find a way. I don't care how you find it. I don't care what you got to do to find it. If you can go out there and find a way to win, you just give the fan base confidence, because you know what? 4 of your next 5 games are extremely winnable. And they kind of scare me just because, like Carolina could just be an enigma. New Orleans, I do think they take care of. And then Tennessee's kind of a wild card just because look what happened last year. And then the clay game against Cleveland, it's just same sort of thing, to where I feel like this team's going to lose a game that bothers people, but then they're going to win a couple ones to even where going and looking ahead to that Sunday nighter in Buffalo. If they can come out of that with like anywhere, I'd say from a 7 to a 14-point loss, and they look respectable and they didn't get their, brains beaten in, you do look good. But then tying it all back to this week, it's because this week could catapult to start that. I feel like it's the memes are 2 different paths, where there's like the happy path that looks like the Disney castle, like the Magic Kingdom. And then there's the dark path of wilderness, where it's like, okay, you're 1 and 2, not doubt starts to creep in, but the negatives will start to outweigh the positives. But if you win this week, and even if the defense has a bad game, they're going to look at it as Drake is developing. And for a lot of people, they just want to see, how does number 10 continue to improve week in and week out?
And that's the thing here. We can talk ad nauseum about all the other things with this team, but the single biggest factor for wins and losses, it's going to be Drake May's development. Especially you mentioned the easy section of this schedule here. The goal is that in all 4 of those games that you lined out, Drake May is clearly the best quarterback on the field, and you win the games because of that. That's what you want. That shows that you are clearly above those teams. And if you prove that you are clearly above those teams, rather than splitting or losing some of them, like, all right, now we're in a point where we can talk about building something for the future. But we need the Drake May we saw against Miami most weeks. You're just going to need that, and clearly he can do it. And I think he found his game a little bit. It's also a bad Miami defense. So, all right. And this is a bad Pittsburgh defense. You're going to have some opportunities this week to keep that up. Carolina's not that good. So, all right, this is the stretch to build momentum, to build your development, and then just go from there. And, if you can take care of business against those bad teams that you talked about, there's a chance we're sitting here going into November, team 6-2. There's also a chance that things are inconsistent, and this is much more likely. Rookies on the offensive line, rookie in the receiving core, second-year quarterback, defense has been up and down. There's a chance you're just 4-4. But you want to take advantage of these games while you have them. And look, the schedule is easy this year. If Drake May plays like the guy we saw last Sunday every week, they can be a playoff team, regardless of the other stuff going on the roster.
There's also that stretch in November that I really look at where it's Falcons, Bucks, Jets, and Bengals.
Yeah.
Because originally that could have been a 1-3 month just because the Falcons are not the offensively, they're still figuring it out, even though Bijan's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But defensively, they've looked really good through 2 weeks. Cincinnati's now a winnable game because of Joe Burrow's not going to be back and playing at that point. The Buccaneers game, I chalk that as a loss just because I really buy into Tampa, which thank God they're not wearing the creamskulls against us. They get to smoke the Jets wearing them, so go have fun with that, Tampa. But the way it's like I say, and I know I'm looking ahead to October, November, but if they're at 4-4 in October, most fans are going to accept that. If they're, even if they're 3-5 at that point, I don't think it's terrible. Obviously, that means that they go down, that they go to what, 2 and. Let's see if they're.
You want to win the home games in that stretch.
Yeah.
If you drop one at New Orleans or at Tennessee, you can accept that. You want to beat Cleveland at home. You want to beat Carolina at home. You should be better than those teams.
I will say this though: if they were to out of all those games, I think a loss to New Orleans is the one where I look at it. Out of the road games between New Orleans and Tennessee, if they lose to Tennessee, it's Vrabel going back home. It's the defense had a good day against Drake May. If you lose to New Orleans, I think there'll be a lot of question marks being raised just because they've had a checkered past against New Orleans the last couple of years. Remember, I think it was like 34-0 the last time, but
New Orleans, Foxborough, yeah. There's the Jonnu Smith game where Mac Jones throws a pick six that Jonnu Smith bats into the air. Yeah, they've had some rough moments against the Saints. I will say about the Saints,
one of my favorite moments though in 2013.
Yes, well, Spencer Rattler has looked okay for them. They have a decent defense. You're on the road in a tough environment. We'll see. And it's how I look at this team is not going to be strictly about wins and losses. But, all right, you showed this week that you can get it done on the road when things aren't perfect, when you're making mistakes. Let's build on that. Try to see if we can do all that without some of those mistakes. Go from 12 penalties down to 6 or 8.
Yep. Maybe
force one more turnover in there. Don't miss extra points. Things like that. We can build on that. Having a great day from Andy on Sunday would be awesome. Let him bounce back. Make, maybe 6 or 7 extra points. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Instead of having to go for 2 later in the game where it's like, this is the difference between being tied and you being down 1. It's just, hey, kick one through the uprights. We have a good situation to where now, hey, they got to go downfield and score. Yeah. Before we wrap up today, obviously we've looked ahead to September, October, November. We've looked back to Miami, but on the 21st day of September, because do you remember the 21st night of September? For the 21st day of September, what do you think is going to happen in this game? But who do you think a key factor in this game could be? And you're not allowed to say the man who's going to be a father. That's a cheap one. Just kidding. You want to say Diggs, go ahead. But he's having a baby, and we're awesome. We're proud of him.
Yeah. I think...
And his sticiousness.
I think the key might actually be someone like Robert Spillane. If you, like I said before, you want to limit Pittsburgh's offense, limit what they do after the catch. Spillane is a guy who has played well in the past and has played poorly this season. You need him to bounce back. You're counting on him bouncing back. You need him to have a good game. And I think the whole middle of the field defense, coverage and tackling, needs to be better. The run defense is fine. It's just that intermediate passing game and screens and yards after the catch. They need to be a lot better at that. So I'm looking at that whole second level of the defense to step up in this one. I think we see a Patriots win. I like the matchup. I think they can get, the fact that they can push the pocket from the interior with the defensive tackles, I think it's something that will frustrate Aaron Rodgers, who is not particularly mobile and very sackable these days. And especially if you have Christian Gonzalez back on DK Metcalf, I think you can, coverage-wise, play a lot better this week than you did last week. And then it's just, guys might be healthier for Pittsburgh this week on defense. Just even keeled. We don't need the Drake May we did last week, but just be good. Give me B+. Drake May this week. solid across the board from everyone, win in the running game. I think they can do all of this. I have not been overly impressed by this Pittsburgh team this year. So I think this is very winnable. The other final note I'll add on this, clean on special teams. Pittsburgh has been like all over the place on special teams this season, but like they have had some really, really rough moments, including letting the other team pick up a kickoff in the end zone for a touchdown last week.
Calvin Austin.
Yeah. Caleb Johnson. So like they will make mistakes. Just don't match them. Like let them make mistakes and keep things clean on your end. And I think you win this game.
Yeah.
Fundamentals, baby.
Stick to the fundies. It's all fundamental.
Yeah.
Got to get some good gunners. Brandon Schooler's got to have a good game too. I would love to say Spillane, but I want to say someone different. I think if he does play and Christian Gonzalez, I just don't know. Is he going to be on a snap count? Are they going to limit his numbers? But I do think that he is going to be the X factor because we saw him last year play he had a bad game against DK Metcalf week 2 last year. Metcalf burned him a bunch, but then again, Geno Smith at Foxborough. So you have this whole dynamic with him where it's how is the hamstring hold up? But if he has a really solid game and plays well, I think it's him or Carlton Davis that really have to dictate the narrative too. Because if you can limit those deep, but like not just short field plays, but if you can limit the plays deep downfield, you're just continually adding to the narrative of, hey, the defense is figuring it out. Give it some time. They're going to be fine, and they're going to work it out. That's what I think the big thing is there defensively for New England. And then I'll just give an offensive one for fun. I think today is on this Sunday, we'll see a game, not a big game, but we'll see a good game, I think, from one of Ramondre or Travion Henderson, to which another point I want to add on Henderson. You should have never drafted him for fantasy football because Ramondre, I think people forgot about how important Ramondre Stevenson is to this offense.
Well, when he's playing well, he was fantastic on Sunday. That looked like vintage Ramondre Stevenson. I'd like to see him do that consistently. Yes. I feel like we haven't seen that guy since week 1 last year. So hopefully, Antonio Gibson's playing well. Travion Henderson, if he can get into the mix here, if they can play enough to keep Ramondre fresh, then you've got a 3-headed monster back there that can do a lot. Yeah. Can I throw out another name to watch in this game? By the
Absolutely. Way? I gave like 2 or 3 or 4. Actually, you throw out as many names as you want, Matthew.
I'm just going to go over to the Pittsburgh side of things. I think there's a guy I'm worried about. Cameron Hayward, savvy veteran defensive tackle, still playing at a high level this year. When you've got a rookie guard like Jared Wilson, yeah, he's a great player. When you've got him against Jared Wilson potentially in this game, that's going to be a tough matchup for you. Wilson's probably going to struggle with that, and that's fine because he's going against a savvy veteran who's going to have a whole lot of moves ready for him. You can lose that matchup. You can't get dominated in that matchup. So that's, what do you call it? So I think my message to like Jared Wilson and the other guys on the interior, just die slowly. If you're going to lose your rep, make it difficult for the other guy and give Drake just another half second to get the ball out.
The other Pittsburgh Steeler that worries me is Pat Freiermuth, just because we saw what Brock Bowers did week 1.
Yeah.
That's just the thing to watch for those like middle of the field, just like go routes, slant routes with Pat Freiermuth. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But ultimately, I feel like this Patriot team has the potential to win. It's just, hey, you got the tools. You got the job done. You get this done right. And we move on to Carolina, to where if you win this game, there's a lot of good mojo in that building going into Carolina instead of, hey, Carolina might be 0-3. We're 1-2. This is a must win because we go 1-3 into Buffalo. We don't want to be looking at that because considering that's a huge stage game to where, to my point earlier, if you can have a decent showing in Buffalo, the national media is going to start to be, hey, look at the New England Patriots and look what they did to the Buffalo. Look what they were able to give to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
It's basically, this is a game that kind of like can shoot you in the right direction. Like I said earlier, it can shoot you into the right direction towards the rest of the year.
That's the goal.
That's just the call. But you know what, Matt St. Jean, this was a blast getting to do this with you once again. We'll have to chum it up again during the season because there still is, after this 14 more Patriot football games to talk about. And I'll be here to talk about it. Yep. Pardon me?
Hopefully more than 14.
Hopefully more. Hopefully we can get to 15, maybe 16, maybe 17, maybe 18. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, everybody, episode number 389 is done. Enjoy week 3 of the NFL season. And if you're listening to this, maybe the Buffalo Bills are murdering the Miami Dolphins, getting Mike McDaniel fired. We just don't know that. Enjoy, everyone. Have a good day.